you for coming. We're ready to start. And the title of this presentation is What to Do When There Is No Doctor. Disease When There Is No Doctor, correct? So, have any of you ever been in a situation where you were sick or somebody in your family was sick and there was no doctor around? What would you do? And no drugs, because drugs don't answer the call for everything. And once you start taking a few, you end up taking a whole lot. I watched my mom go from a few pills to a handful. So, drugs treat symptoms, not the disease. So we do have a need then for natural remedies, for things that are non-invasive, things that we can trust are natural and won't create another problem. So, I'm going to be reading some things from this book, and it's a health manual I wrote around the year 2000 and have had 4 additions to it, which is the last one. I'm going to be reading from a health track that I just did a month ago, maybe a few months ago, that has my testimony in it about this health message that we're talking about. And as you leave today, you will pick up on the last row there, a health track. It's free. And a copy of the 10 Commandments, if you'd like it, which is very valuable. Okay, so what to do when the doctor's not there? There's quite a few things, but prevention is better than what? Cure, absolutely. And why is prevention better than cure? You don't want to get sick in the first place. And you know, that's the way I feel. So I live and work every day under certain principles. Before I learned what I'm going to share with you, I used to eat anytime, any place. It didn't matter. Anywhere. But since I have learned that there's a time, the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. And so there's a time to eat and there's a time not to eat. We used to take people in our home off the street, and one night I got up to use the bathroom, and this big, tall man was inside almost the refrigerator. He was eating out of the refrigerator at 1 o'clock in the morning. I got up again, and he was in there again. I said, if you don't stop, I'm going to move you down to the trailer that has no refrigerator. And he would not stop, so that's where he had to move. But some people, they feel like they can't sleep unless they have food in their stomach. That's getting it backwards. You actually sleep better when your stomach is empty. And so, I want to read some principles to you about eating and drinking and dressing. And why is your dress important? Did you know that you're healthier if you cover your limbs? And the most sensitive areas for especially a woman's body is her ankles, because they will chill faster than any other part of your body. If your feet and if your ankles are warm, the rest of you will be warm. When I first moved to New York City, I would have a hat and gloves on and a scarf around my neck and a coat, and everybody else was walking around with no coat. I said, something's wrong with me. And what was wrong with me? I didn't like fresh air. And because I didn't like fresh air and I didn't know that it was healthier to keep your window open at night to get fresh air, I barred all fresh air. Hence, I was chilly all the time. And you know, most women, for some reason, seem to have chilly limbs. Have you noticed that? Their limbs are a little chilly. Has anybody else noticed that beside me? Okay, a few others. So, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatever you do to the glory of God. There are a couple of laws that cannot be or should not be controverted. And that is, you should eat the same time every day. And also, remember this, disease never comes without a cause. The way is prepared and disease is invited by disregard of the laws of health. And what are the laws of health? I'll put this one up first. They come with the little phrase, start now. Were any of you in my class before and heard this? Okay, so here it is, sunlight. With the S, start. T, temperance. Always exercise. Rest for the R, trust in God. For the T, the second T, nutrition. Oxygen or air, fresh air, and water. Okay, so those are the main things that you need to remember that you need to do every day. Why do you need to do those things every day? If you get out and get some sunshine, make sure you drink adequate water. The average person needs to drink at least 3 quarts a day. That sounds like a lot. Have you noticed that when you go to the emergency room, the first thing they do is hook you up to an IV? I don't care what you have, they hook you up to an IV. Why? Because they know that most people that come there are dehydrated. And once they get hydrated, they're okay. Sometimes. More than usual. Because being dehydrated creates a lot of other problems. Okay, so oxygen, water used inside and out. Those are the principles. Now, how do you eat? Did you ever think about, I need to learn how to eat? Well, you eat the same time every day. You eat your largest meal in the morning. I remember it this way. Eat like a king in the morning, a queen in the afternoon, and a pauper at night. Okay, why is that important? Because when you eat your largest meal in the morning, the body hopefully has not had anything to eat since yesterday afternoon or evening. So the body has rested, the hydrochloric acid builds up, and it's ready to go to digest a big full meal. Now your circadian rhythm, you know what that is. Your biological clock is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. At 3 p.m., your circadian rhythm takes a dive, start going down. Why is that? Because the metabolic rate of the human body is at its peak performance from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you want to do something important, do it between 9 and 3, and you're at your peak performance mentally, physically, etc. Okay? And that's probably why most jobs are, except for nurses, from 9 to 5. But just think of this. At 5 o'clock, you're already slowing down. Your metabolic rate is slowing down. Then you go home from your work and you put a big fat meal in your stomach. You eat like a king in the evening. And guess what? Your body metabolic rate has slowed down. It's not in a condition, especially if you eat the flesh of animals. It's not in a condition. Something happened to my volume. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
We're trying to adjust it for the people next door.
Okay,
So it's not.
I understand. Okay, so you don't eat your largest meal in the evening because your body is not ready for it. It's slowing down for the evening. And you're going to go to bed shortly thereafter, not at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, hopefully at 9 o'clock. You can train yourself to do anything you want to do. Just say, I will not do this anymore. And ask God to help you, and you won't do it. It's just like you're determined to do something. Be determined. I'm not going to eat in between meals. I'm not going to eat junk food anymore. What's junk food? Anything that's not coming out of the ground. And you wonder why you're sick? You eat non-food that the world calls, in the grocery store, calls food, and it's not food. If it doesn't look like it comes from the ground, it's not from the ground. It's turned into some creation of somebody's idea of food. Like potato chips, what I used to eat all the time, every day of my life as a teenager until I was 22. And then I started eating healthy potato chips, and I can't tell you why they were called healthy, except the bag said so on the front. And I used to do these classes in reading labels, and the first thing they teach you is do not believe what's on the front label. Read the back of the label, then the front label. You had a question, brother.
Do you prefer to take questions at the end or?
No, it doesn't matter. Just talk loud, and I'll repeat it, or okay. Brother Victor.
Is everyone's circadian rhythm the same? You said 9 to 3. It begins to metabolically, things begin to slow down.
Yes.
Is that true for men, women, young, old, everybody?
It is. That is the general time given for the human peak performance. 9 o'clock, actually when you wake up, your adrenaline starts flowing. But it peaks around 9 o'clock. That's why most jobs start you at 9, and they finish you at 5. But you don't want to do anything really strenuous around 5, or as it gets later in the evening, you really want to slow down, turn the lights down, and you'll be able to sleep better as well. Circadian rhythm is very important. If you notice, the animal's circadian rhythm is completely different. We're up now, but the animals are doing what? Most of them. Sleeping now. And they come out at night. Their circadian rhythm is completely different. Circadian rhythm is important because as human beings, we acknowledge that things work better when we cooperate with our body or biological rhythm. Okay? Yes?
What is the best time to eat your 2 meals? What's the best time of the day?
Well, I wouldn't say that I have a best time or a perfect time, but I have been on 8 and 2 for a long time, and I tried to change it to 7 and 1, but it didn't work all the time because I like a really good study time in the morning, and your mind seems to be sharper in the morning than it is at night. I can study for 4 hours in the morning, or 3, or 2, but at night, no. If I get in 15 minutes, it's good, because my mind gets tired and my body gets tired.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to ask.
That's okay. Okay, so nothing in between meals except water. Leave at least 5 to 6 hours between meals, and that's for the same reason we said before. Now, why am I telling you this? Because if you can remember these simple rules, you will not get sick. I'm a witness. I almost never get sick. Never, 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 never. For over 50 years. Only time I get sick, he bucked his eyes. What? No, only time I get sick is when I overwork. And how do you solve that? You rest. You stay in the bed. Only I just had a camp meeting a few months ago, and I haven't been able to rest because we've had one, challenge, program, etc., after another. So you don't get that downtime that you need in between when you put out a lot of energy to rest. You know when you're tired, don't you? So before you hit that exhaustion state, you say, I'm not doing another thing. I'm just going to lay here and rest. That's how people have strokes and heart attacks. Yeah, keep pushing themselves. Don't push yourself. I am learning that because I'm a pusher, and I like to have things just so. But they can't always be that way. Yes, go right ahead.
I did remember the question. So, this meal schedule thing is really kind of it's really kind of curious sometimes because we have the Sabbath,
Yes.
you know? So I think, well, what we should do is figure out what we're going to do on the Sabbath and then do that same thing the rest of the week. But, you know, so I'm thinking, well, so how do you handle that?
Very good question. Okay, first of all, let me answer. I didn't answer you completely for the first part. Some people eat at 6 and 1. I think Ellen White ate at 6 and at 1. Some people eat at 7 and 2, and other people eat at 9 and 3. I wouldn't take it beyond that. Now, on Sabbath, we eat earlier. It's fellowship dinner, right? Okay, probably 1 o'clock, no later, and I eat at 2. So I eat at 1 on Sabbath. On Friday is my fast day, so I skip breakfast, and I eat at 1 in preparation for those 2 days. I eat at 1 o'clock, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I eat at 2. That's the way I solve it.
Thank
I hope
you.
that helps. Okay. Yes? Yes, no problem.
Okay. I'm not trying to make excuses.
Yes,
I'm trying to be as practical as possible.
sure.
One of the most intimate times is when we can eat together as family.
Yes,
If you're eating at 9 and 3, you know, unless you have a work at home situation,
right.
you're essentially essentially avoiding
Right.
that family time, especially the meal
That's
at
true.
5 p.m., 6. So practically, how are we going to do this if we say, okay, and in the morning, a lot of us have to dash to work. So can you please address that like as practically as possible, like how we can actually accomplish that?
I'm going to try to answer that, although I have not had a job in over 53 years. I've been a missionary to America.
Yeah.
And I have not punched a clock. I go wherever God asked me to go. I do what he wants. He showed me how to write books, showed my husband and I how to set up publishing companies. So we never punched clocks.
Right.
We never had to, how can I say it, run off to work.
Yes.
But we were up early and we had worship, but we ate at 8, which is not very good if you have to drive a couple of hours to work. Right. So I would suggest you and your wife sit down, and if you have children, work it out where all of you can have your main meal at night. In the morning. Now that will take some creativity for your wife, but it's so much easier, especially when you have electricity. When the electricity goes off, you might have to change that. However, if you all got up and got ready, or maybe you don't get ready, you just come to the table with your house coat. You sit at the table at 7 o'clock in the morning and eat your meal. 1 o'clock, you have your lunch, which you take with you. You skip the meal in the evening. Why are you eating late at night? It's not going to digest. It's going to lay there, and you have bad dreams, horrible dreams, and then you wake up unrefreshed. So it's better to eat with your wife in the morning. Use a crock pot. Put some beans in a crock pot, cook some rice, just heat it up in the morning. If you're eating frozen vegetables, cook them, thaw them out, just heat them up a little bit in the morning. If you want fresh vegetables, prep them at night. Eat them in the morning. Have your salads ready for in the morning. In the afternoon, you take a lunch, which could be fruit and a sandwich, which could be some nuts and seeds. You know, seeds have a lot of power in them, a lot of life. So you want to eat plenty of seeds, not all in one meal. You may have chia one day in a smoothie, or you may have sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds, and they make you feel full. They really are satisfying, and nuts as well. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, do not eat foods too hot or too cold. So what we're talking about here is prevention before we get on to what you actually do when you are sick, or you have pain, or you have crises physically, and the doctor is not around. Here's one of the biggest things that people do that causes a lot of health issues. And I'm going to read it from my track here. It says, here are some very important principles for eating that became my everyday habits. I used to eat one meal all day long. I now eat 2 meals a day, called time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting. I don't drink with my meals. It dilutes digestive juices and ruins digestion, causing bloating, sour stomachs, and flatulence. I do not mix fruits and vegetables together in the same meal. Fruits digest quickly, but vegetables take much longer. It causes fermentation in the stomach and poisons the breath and the entire system. Number 4, I do not eat late after 2 p.m. unless there is an emergency. This drains the life's vital force. The digestive system must rest when you rest. Otherwise, you wake up from bad dreams, tired and unprepared for breakfast and the day's activities. Breakfast doesn't mean you eat eggs and bacon, like I used to think. It means that you are breaking a fast. That's all it means. So what do I eat in the morning? A salad every morning. My husband had a hard time eating a salad, so he would skip a salad. But he had the vegetables, he had the beans, he had the loaf, he had the gravy, the cashew gravy, or whatever kind of gravy I wanted to make. He had casseroles and plenty of vegetables. Fresh vegetables is strengthening to the body. Number 5, I do not eat until I am full. This is the worst habit to break. It steals your strength, clarity, and concentration of mind. It is a medically recognized condition called food coma, a state of drowsiness after a meal. You cannot understand truth or have clear spiritual discernment. In other words, the Lord could be speaking to you saying, go down the street here and turn left. And you say, oh no, the Lord said I better go back there. You become confused mentally. Revelation 3:18, last part, says, a state of drowsiness after meal. You cannot understand truth or have clear spiritual discernment. That's called eye salve. And you're bringing sickness upon yourself by clogging the system. No snacks, no beverages, just water between meals. Now, at first I thought it was okay to drink juice between meals, but did you know that juice takes digestion too? And not only that, it's mostly sugar. Juice is concentrated sugar. So you're preparing yourself to be a diabetic. Herb tea is good, yes. And why is that? Because of the peace and clarity of mind and bodily strength, with no regrets for over 6 decades. No more blackouts. I love it. I used to have blackouts. I'd be somewhere like this, and all of a sudden, pop, I'm on the floor. No warning at all. That is pre-diabetic, or what they call hypoglycemia. My lifestyle and daily activities were ordered around the 8 laws of health. It's simple, free, and proven by my lifestyle and thousands of others. I almost never get sick unless I overwork and need rest, and have been intemperate in my medical missionary work. So we went over the 8 laws of health. So how do you get sick? Disease never comes without a cause. The way is prepared, and disease is invited. It is invited by disregard of these laws of health. Isn't that interesting? That's too simple. When I first read this, I said, it's too simple. It can't work. But over the years, I have realized it's simple, but it's powerful. Can that be? Yes, it can be. It's simple, but it's powerful. Okay. Sickness and disease of every kind, ruined constitutions, premature death, untimely deaths, these are the result of the violation of nature's laws. Try it. Make sure you exercise every day, some kind of walking, some kind of calisthenics. Stay in the sun a little bit. Be temperate. Rest 9 to 2. Those are your most important rest times. Your REM sleep. Trusting in God. You know how I trust in God? If something is pressing on me, I search the Bible until I get a promise that fits that. And I claim it. And I memorize it. And every time those thoughts come to my mind, I say the promise. That's trusting in God. Get thee behind me, enemy. Nutrition. Why do you eat junk food? It's not food. That's the devil's food. He purposely put all that junk food in the grocery store so you go get it, get hooked on it, and get sick. And then have to go to the doctor and take drugs, and you're hurried on out to the grave. That's the devil's plan for you. Go on, eat the junk food. You won't last long. Your body wasn't made to digest it. That's the devil's food. Potato chips, corn chips, all the chips. Chip. We get hooked on those things. Why? Crunchy, salty. You know what I do? I haven't done it for a little while, but I get zucchini, slice it real thin, season it up real good, put it in a dehydrator. It comes out just like chips, and it crunches just like chips. And onions, too. It's just like eating onion rings, only there's no oil. A little bit of oil if you have to put on the pan, but let me tell you, we got to eat real food, not fake food. Most of the grocery stores have fake food. Most of what you sit down to eat is fake food. It should not be called food. I don't know what you call it, but it makes you sick. Because I know that's what everybody's eating, and everybody's getting sick. Then you go to the doctor and get sicker with the drugs. Drugs don't cure. Drugs medicate. They hide symptoms. Yes.
So we just picked a ton of tomatoes from Yakima.
What?
We picked tomatoes in Yakima.
Tomatoes or tomatoes? Tomatoes.
And
Okay.
we had too many. I couldn't keep up with the canning, so I decided to slice them and dehydrate them.
Oh,
And they are so good.
really?
They are so good. And I did that with onion.
What'd you put
Walla
on
Walla
'em?
Sweet. Nothing.
What?
And they are so good. They're like chips, potato
Yes,
chips.
they're like chips.
They're
Yep.
sweet, and the onions are sweet too.
Yes, they are.
They're like, wow, this is like candy.
I know, you're right, but I'm going to have to try the tomatoes. So that's the way you got rid of your extra tomatoes. They have to be ripe.
Well, right, and it's better if they're not store-bought.
Yes,
We picked them from the farm in Yakima,
yes,
and they were just, I mean, they are really good.
yes, amen.
They just come off, like when you, with the sheet,
Yes,
because I have a sheet on my dehydrator.
yes, a Teflex sheet.
Comes off.
Because my things always stick.
No, they won't. They'll stick, but you just bend it like that and it'll come off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the dehydrator, you put the Teflex sheet, which causes the juice not to leak down onto the other trays.
I've never tried it, and I'm like, these are so good.
Wow, they're like tomato chips or tomato chips.
Carry that around when we have a picnic and we just eat those.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, what I like to do is get pecans. And I pour a little bit of maple syrup on them, put them on the Teflex sheet, and put them in there, and that's my dessert. They are so good. They crystallize around the pecan, and they're crunchy and hard. Oh, they're so good. Okay, so overeating is one great cause of not only premature death, but sickness. When you become uncomfortable with your eating, you have already eaten too much. And try it. You will be so happy. I remember one time, long time ago, I overate, and I felt like a drunk person. I really did, and I said, no more. I said, Lord, forgive me. I'm not doing this anymore. I was probably 30 or 40 years younger. But, you know, it was at Thanksgiving time at my mother-in-law's, and she laid it on, and I laid it on. And, and you know, overeating clogs the whole system. You can't think, you can't do anything but just sit in a chair and just check out. That's it. Yes?
I had a quick question. I agree with your eating at the, I've been doing the breakfast and lunch.
Okay.
But sometimes, I hate to say you have to eat at night, but sometimes you're invited out to
Yes.
dinner or something. What do you do in those instances? Oh, you're going to a wedding and they eat at 6 o'clock and we bring you your food and I mean, you could choose not to eat it, but
Yeah.
most of the time you're not gonna. At least I'm not going to. What do you do in that situation?
Okay, well, when we had our lifestyle center, if some people were not used to 2 meals a day, we gave them a nice smoothie in the evening until they adjusted, hopefully. The other thing is, I just went to a wedding recently. I sat down and fellowship with everybody and talked, and nobody even realized that I wasn't eating. And I packed up my wedding cake, which was vegan, and I packed up my meal, and I took it home and ate it the next day. No problem. Now, for some people, you know what? Most people cannot look at food and not eat it. That's the way it is. But I think to myself, I don't want to be like other people. I'm not looking at what you're doing, and don't you look at what I'm doing. I'm going to pass it up. I'm not tempted. I am not tempted because I know how I'm going to feel the next day. And what did Barbara, what's her name? Barbara, the president's wife.
Oh.
They asked her one time, why do you exercise every day? What keeps you motivated? What did she say? The way I feel the next day. That's what keeps me motivated on 2 meals a day and eating on schedule. I don't mind because I know how bad I'm going to feel, and I'm breaking down the life forces by eating late because my body circadian rhythm or metabolic rate is going down, down, down. And then I throw a big meal on it. Oh, that's stressful for the body. You wonder why you don't have energy. Yes.
So do you think, speaking about overeating and just thinking about that, do you think it's a good idea to set a time, say I'm going to eat for half an hour, or 20 minutes, or 40 minutes?
We don't want to make this, how can I say it? You know, no, you relax when you eat, you enjoy what you may eat in 30 minutes, 35, or you might take, where Janelle said, you might chew your food every mouth for 50, 30 times, you know? So it's up to you. All of us are different. We all do different things. Most of us eat like our parents, what they ate and the way they ate. I realized when I was young, and when I heard this health message, I realized my parents didn't know anything. My dad's last meal was a fried squirrel. Yeah. And the squirrels ran around on our property, and I said, wow, if my dad were here, he would have shot that squirrel and put him in a skillet. And one day, he brought a squirrel home, and he said, Gwenny, he called me, Gwenny, come in here and skin this squirrel for me. And I went in there and looked at that squirrel. I was just in high school. And I said, oh, no. There's no way I'm going to take the skin off of this squirrel. There's no way. So I said, Daddy. And I fell on him. Oh, Daddy, 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 don't make me do it. And he said, okay. And I got out of it. I was not playing, though. I was about to throw myself, I don't know. at his feet or something, but I was not going to skin that squirrel. A dead squirrel, bleeding from the gunshot wound my dad put in him. And he liked rabbits. But hunting, a lot of people hunt around us. And they eat deer, and they even eat, what do you call those big fat turtles? They say they have 9 kinds of meat in them. They love them. But not me. My mom and I run out of the house. Daddy would even cook, what was that? They call them chitlins. You know what chitlins are? Pig intestines. He would cook it because my mom said, I'm not cooking those. If you want those, you eat them. She would leave the house and I would, because the smell was horrendous. I don't know how you could eat them after you smell them. But anyway, to each his own. But what I'm saying to you, each of us has to decide for ourselves what is right. And if you need to change your diet, you need to do it now. And you need to stick to it. And when you're tempted, you say, God, give me strength. He said, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest, God. Behold, I'm the Lord God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? Is it? Is anything too hard for God? Of course not. And so we claim these promises. With God, it is possible, but not with men. And so we claim these promises and we walk by faith. That's what righteousness by faith is. Okay. Keep the body alkaline. Several of you came up at the last presentation. I gave you some alkaline strips. You put them in your mouth. Some people were surprised. They were very acidic. Other people were surprised because they were very alkaline, very green, dark green, and others were light green. That means you're acidic or orange. So how do you stay alkaline? You eat enough fruits and vegetables. Lentils is an alkaline grain. Did you know that? And it is the richest nutritionally of all the beans. So you eat plenty of lentils. The peas are easy to digest, easier than beans. And drink plenty of water and make sure you get exercise. Disease cannot live in an alkaline medium. Eat fresh, raw food at each meal, your vegetable meal. And you can have a pie once in a while, but you can make pies out of maple syrup and honey. Use the good sweeteners, not our stevia, not the white sugar. The white sugar is the worst. And there's another one called coconut sugar, which is low glycemic. You can have a little bit of that. Most of the time we overdo it because the things in the store are very sweet. Once you start eating that, your whole taste buds are off. Okay, eat 2 to 4, not more, varieties at a meal. That becomes very hard because a lot of people that bring these dishes have not studied councils on diets and foods. They might have a dish there has 10 things in it or 5. And that causes confusion and indigestion. Eat things that you can see, like there was squash there the other day. And sometimes there's green beans or broccoli. Eat the foods you can see what's in it. And it doesn't have 5 or 10 more ingredients. Do not chew gum. This tricks the body. Enzymes begin to flow, sending a message to the stomach that food is coming when there is no food. The digestive enzymes and gastric juices are depleted. Okay, so eating a heavy meal just before bedtime or late in the evening is very harmful to your health. The digestive organs, like other organs, slow down their activity in preparation for rest. Eat the heaviest meal in the morning, and after the fast through the night, the stomach is stronger and better able to handle a heavy meal. Because of the time, I'm going to stop there. And remember, you can have one of these tracts. This health message saved my life, and a copy of the 10 Commandments. Now, let's go to hydrotherapy. When you do get sick, what do? A hot foot bath is for any kind of lung or respiration issues, colds, catarrh, menstrual cramps. A wet sheet pack we use those for cancer. They pull the toxins out, but it's also a cold sheet pack. And then we pile lots of blanket on them. And the toxins come through the sheet. By the time that sheet warms up, it's turned yellow if you use a white sheet because the toxins are coming out. And they feel sleepy. They feel like they're ready to rest. And many times the cancer patients would tell us that their pain was gone. A hot foot bath is merely putting your feet in a hot bucket of water with a cold towel to the neck or the head. Hydrotherapy, you really need to learn hydrotherapy because hydrotherapy saves lives, and hydrotherapy moves blood. Water moves blood. A sitz bath, this is for people, men who have prostate issues, or women who have hemorrhoids, yes. And we have a sitz bath. We put them in hot, cold, hot, 2 different tubs, or sometimes just a cold bath, a tub of cold water with ice. And it's shocking at first, but they get used to it and they get out refreshed, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No
I
problem.
want to mention that is so cool hearing about how you use wet sheet pack
Yes.
with cancer patients.
Uh-huh.
I did that with my children when they got fever when they were little. Wrapped them in a wet sheet pack,
You're
put 'em in
right.
bed, they'd wake up well.
Exactly. My son had a temperature off the thermometer, if you believe that. The thing that made it start coming down after we tried everything else was a cold sheet pack. And then when we gave him an enema, don't forget the enema. You just get a Fleet's enema. It came all the way down and it stayed down. So yes, that's a good point. Yes.
How does the sitz bath help with prostate?
Because usually there's not enough blood flow in that area. And what happens when you do hot and cold, or even just warm, it brings new blood to the area.
So how often would you do that in a day, or like how?
Just once a day,
One time a day?
yes. But, 2 is always better when it comes to these treatments. But they take a lot of time and effort because you have to set up everything. Yes.
My habit is when I shower, I do it's called a cold mitten friction
Oh, I love those.
after a hot shower.
Yes.
I mean, it's not radical. I just don't turn on the cold water. I turn it down
Right.
and gradually cool it
Yes.
and just rub
Rub
my
everything.
cloth over my skin. And when I come out of the shower, I am flush with heat.
Amen. That's
from
right.
the circulation that it has created.
And that is so life-giving because you get your blood flowing after you've rested at night and your blood is kind of wherever. But it moves because that water, especially cold mitten friction, is just friction with, you can get a loofah, you can get those little gloves that are kind of abrasive and rub, or you can get somebody to do the rub for you, And like you said, their blood comes to the surface of the skin. No wonder your complexion is so great. It really is. I looked and I said, wow, he has a nice complexion because he does those cold mitten frictions. If you did it too, you would look better. Your face would tone out, and I'm telling you, these things work. Okay. Sitz bath, salt glow, steam inhalation. I told you about that already. That's for asthma, any kind of sinus or upper respiratory problem. Just a boiling pot of water with a few drops of peppermint, obus oil, eucalyptus. Put a sheet over you or a blanket and just deep breathe. And it will go away in less than 15 minutes. Open up those sinuses. Hot fomentations to the chest with cold water afterward brings new blood to the area as well. And breaks up any congestion of the lungs and helps you to breathe deeper and better. Yes.
Did you tell us what a salt glow was yet?
Oh, he mentioned that. Oh, no, he didn't mention that. A salt glow, Thank you. A salt glow is when you have, like, you can take any kind of salt and you dampen it. I mean, you just, a little bit of water, or you can spray water on it, make sure it's just damp. Then you take the salt, it feels so good. And your skin feels like silk afterward. You can start with your feet and come on up and then do your arms, have someone do your back. If you have a therapist or just anybody willing to do it, what happens is when they finish, you take a hot shower, makes a sting after a salt glow. So you want to use cool water after the salt glow. And I tell you, it's comparable to the cold mitten, to the cold mitten friction for increasing circulation. Because remember, perfect health requires what? Perfect circulation. So cold mitten friction and salt glow are two of the best ways to increase your circulation. You know when your circulation is not good, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever walked for a mile or two and you realize the difference when you don't walk? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I just wanted you to explain what a fermentation was. Some people might not know what that is.
A fomentation. A hydroculator, you plug it in, and you can take these pads of various sizes and put them in there, and they come out real, real hot. So instead of putting them directly on the body wherever you're having a problem, you put a towel down first. You can double the towel. And you put your hand under there to see how hot it is. And then you leave it on, and it will just open up, just cause the blood to flow. Open up that area, and then you do the ice. 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold, 3 times, okay? And then, if you don't have a hydroculator, like I have, for our lifestyle center, you just take hot towels. You wring it in opposite directions, dip it in the water, wring it more, you fold it up real quick and put it on the person. And you have a towel down there underneath to make sure it doesn't burn them. Put a towel on top, piece of plastic on top, and that's your hot fomentation. Okay? Cold compress, same thing. Where would you use a cold compress? Maybe on the neck. In fact, spraying ankles, yes, wherever you have a break or a sprain. The cold compress, what was I going to say? The cold compress is really good for the chest. The ice massage is really good for pain in the back. I've done this. And you take a styrofoam cup, freeze it, tear off the top lid, and go round and round. You can't stop. You have to be continually moving for 20 minutes. If you do that, within 20 minutes, you go from cold to numb to fiery hot to painless in 20 minutes. And your pain is gone for any kind of back pain. Hot and cold showers, you can take those every day to increase your circulation. And you really feel invigorated. Okay. We have a few more minutes. Natural pain management. PAV. This is tree resin. I used to sell it. A lot of people have gone out of business selling this life-giving salve. But for gunshot wounds, for stabs, for bites, I mean, you name it, any kind of problem with the skin, the salve, the PAV, it's tree resin really will do what you need done. Now, this company where I used to get this is now closed. They're not in business anymore. But I did find some on a place online called Etsy, E-T-S-Y. So if you really want to get some, that's a good place to go. Plantain. It's in everybody's yard, almost. And you pick it up. I gave this story before. I was in a raspberry patch picking raspberries. And all of a sudden, it felt like a long needle was being stuck right here in my thumb. And I let out a loud scream. Ah! So I'm not even going to scream like that. But the lady that came with me said, I didn't know you could scream so loud. I said, yeah, you would too. This hornet just bit me. So the lady of the house ran in the house to get some lavender oil. And I looked down. I wasn't even trying to find any. I just happened to look down. I saw some plantain. I picked it up. And what do they tell you to do with the plantain? Chew it online. I didn't chew it. I don't want to chew that. I didn't know who stepped on that plantain. So I just did like this and crushed it in my fingers, put it on there. By the time the lady got back out the door, my pain was gone. Totally gone. Nothing there at all. So plantain, this herb here, if you don't know what it looks like, I would suggest you go online and then find it. Boy, if you were on my property, I'd take you for a walk and you see plenty of it. And you just pick and pick. And I almost can't pass a plantain when I see it anywhere because it's so valuable. Okay, vegetables, cabbage. One time I went to a house I hadn't been to in a long time. I said, oh, you planted flowers and they're so beautiful. And oh, look at these over there. And I went to run to see them. And I tripped over something I didn't see. And all of a sudden, my elbow broke a big, fat, that's how hard I slammed into it, planter. And I was on my way to speak in Maryland. And this was blue and black and hurting. The little boy, he was about 12, Christopher. He ran in the house. He calls me Auntie Gwen. Auntie Gwen, here. He got about 3 or 4 layers of cabbage, and he smacked it on there. And guess what? It wasn't very long, maybe 3 minutes or more. Pain was gone. The pain was actually gone. The blue and black mark was still there, but the pain was gone as long as I kept the cabbage there. I got on the plane, kept the cabbage on the whole weekend, and I took it off on Sunday morning. And the blue and black was almost gone as well. Potatoes are good, and you can grate it for pain as well. Onion is one of the best for ear infections. Those 2 books out there, Natural Remedies 1 and 2, they're only $5 each. Has some beautiful pictures and wonderful natural remedies with cabbage, potato, and onion. Castor oil with wool flannel pack. I've told you about that before. That's the wool flannel. You soak it, put it on, it takes the pain out. Cayenne could stop a heart attack, a stroke. It's good for so many things. Look it up on the internet. Pulverized activated charcoal with ground flaxseed. This was our first go-to every time someone had a problem in our family or a friend. And comfrey. Comfrey will take away pain, but it also knits cartilage, and bones as well. So I would get a comfrey plant, put it somewhere because it's going to spread like wildfire, and use it whenever you have pain of any kind. Now, what would I do with sugar? What would I do with sugar, Brother Kendor? Bed sores, and what else? Any kind of wound. Any kind of open wound. It will pull out the poison. You know, a lot of these poisons, if you take it by mouth, the body does not recognize that as poison. But when you take it rectally, guess what? The body says, and it goes, shoo, push it out like that. That's what a coffee enema is, poison. That's with sugar. That's exactly what happens. The body rejects it. And so, with the 8 laws of health, start now with hydrotherapy, charcoal, and herbs as well. You have God's medicine chest. Yes.
I'm going to go back to the comfrey. When do you harvest that? What's the best time to harvest?
You can harvest comfrey any time of the year.
But so it doesn't matter, the leaves are better in the spring, the small leaves, the big leaves?
Some people may disagree with me, but we had it in New York beside our bedroom window, and it grew and grew, and we harvested any time, and it worked every time we harvested it. Any other questions? Yes. Brother Victor. Okay.
I had a question earlier about the salt glow. I assume that will not affect your blood pressure by rubbing all of that salt on your body. It won't increase the blood pressure. Is that correct?
It will actually help because you're increasing the circulation.
Okay.
Yeah. Question right here.
I don't know, it's a little testimony, I guess. All these treatments are wonderful, but seriously, you know, I'm a nurse and I learned these, and I think it's good to learn them to help people or even yourself in crisis. But seriously, if you live by those 8 laws, and get exercise and sleep and water, and you almost never have to use those remedies. Those packs are
Yes.
just kind of sitting there and they never got used, you know.
Exactly. Praise the Lord.
But thank you for sharing, because it's good to know all that.
Sure. Okay, I have a whole page in here. Let me see if I can find it. A whole page of natural remedies I wanted to read to you real quickly. Okay, here it is. I'll read very fast, okay? Number 1, the herb chickweed reduces plaque formation in the bloodstream, purifies the blood, and is anti-inflammatory and greatly reduces cholesterol in the arteries. What herb is that? Chickweed. Number 2, a good natural blood thinner, hawthorn berry powder, cayenne, ginger, mixed with 30 ounces of water 3 times a day. Wild-crafted herbs, pin herb. To lower blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, organic string bean juice, 2 tablespoons, refrigerate 2 to 4 times a day. Also, bitter melon capsule from pin herb. Okay, number 4, men, you're getting up most of the night visiting the bathroom. Is that what you're doing? Take 2 tablespoons of sprouted pumpkin seeds a day. One friend testified in less than 2 weeks he went from 5 to 7 times a night to 2 times per night from getting up. Ladies, are you having nagging headaches or monthly pain? First, drink more water. Secondly, a 20-minute hot foot bath with a cold towel to the neck or forehead will take away the headache and menstrual cramps. Put legs and feet in water as hot as can be tolerated. Number 5, plantar fasciitis. Have you heard of that? Plantar fasciitis. Troubling you or someone you know, make a charcoal poultice, wrap with plastic with poultice or bottom of feet. Cover with a bandage and at night and leave on overnight. Repeat every night until the inflammation is gone. With my husband, it took 2 nights and never returned, the plantar fasciitis. Too much walking, that's what it was. Struggling with high blood pressure and want to control it naturally? Okay, I don't think they have this one anymore, but you can see. It's called Levodyn.com, Levodyn. Feeling tired, having aches and pains, can't climb stairs or get up from a low chair or floor? Maybe you're vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D3 fights all kinds, including heart disease, cancer, and autoimmune disease. Okay, that's hawthorn berry juice. Okay, powder. Wait before you take Tylenol. Take a fleet enema to bring that fever down. Check in your neighborhood pharmacy. Also relieves gas, pain in the colon. For flatulence, take 1 tablespoon of activated charcoal and 8 ounces of water on an empty stomach. Ice massage. I talked about that on hydrotherapy. For muscle strains, bursitis, sprains, low back pains, whiplash, etc. Use styrofoam cups filled with water, freeze, pull down the top edges 1 inch for a massage, and rub on the muscles only and the surrounding tissues. Keep in moving circular long strokes, wipe melting ice as you go. Do not stop for 10 to 15 minutes. Treatment progresses from cool to burn to aching to painful, and then it stops the pain. Honey has been used for centuries as a natural remedy. It is an antimicrobial, treats cuts, wounds, and burns, and it inhibits 60 species of bacteria, especially Manuka honey, proven effective against staph, MRSA, etc., infections. Cough suppressant, proven by the reputable Mayo Clinic. Here's a recipe I gave my husband who was coughing constantly. Gave this to him. He never coughed the entire night and fell asleep. Blend till smooth and put it in a glass jar. Take a half to 1 teaspoon every half an hour. Great for children. And that's 1 cup of raw honey, a half a teaspoon of cayenne, 1/4 of a cup of fresh squeezed lemon, a half a cup of garlic cloves, 1/3 peppermint oil, 1/2 cup of chopped onions, 1/2 cup of horseradish root. I did not have horseradish root, but it worked anyway. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed these sessions, and I hope you've learned some things.